Hey guys, in today's show, I'm receiving Ulf Stenerhag, the CEO and founder of Wayout, a Swedish-based startup that produces micro water plants the size of a container. They are tackling one core problem: the production and usage of plastic bottles. The US Environmental Protection Agency has called plastics a climate killer. If the plastics industry were a country, it would be the fifth largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. Today, 1.3 billion plastic bottles are used each day across the world. That is about 1 billion per minute. If you go to any developing country, you will be frightened by the omnipresence of plastic bottles. They're literally everywhere and filling up every body of water around the planet. Wayout addresses that specific problem of water production. They make local production of water possible, and we will speak about how. In this episode, we will also touch on how to crack the production of water locally and to make it so trustworthy so that people stop using bottles and drink from the tap again. Some surprising and shocking facts about the quality of water in our Western cities and why we might actually also rely on micro water plants in the future. How could Wayout's model take significant market share away from the water giants that are PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, and Nestle, and eventually create a new model that can and would scale across all layers of the pyramid? And finally, Ulf's vision of the future where water becomes literally free. As a disclaimer, Wayout is a portfolio company of Climentum Capital, but I'll try my best to convey an unbiased perspective. Let's go. So Ulf, welcome to Climate Insiders.
Thank you for having me.
So can you describe how Wayout works and how you manage to relocalize that actual production of water?
Yeah, I think first of all, it brings me to a quote somebody said, like packaging is a design error. And there is some truth in that. And I think we have also been inspired by the fact that there is a lot of movement, industrial movements and production movement from large scale to small scale to centralized to distributed. You can see internet is one area. You can see power generation is one area where you see microgrids coming up. And I think that this is how the world will look like if we're going to stay as humans on this planet, to have a distributed, more resilient, more fair, more reasonable way of dealing with our resources. So the Wayout concept is almost like brought from an idea like when to consume or to produce where you consume. Imagine you have a watermelon and you put the straw and then you consume. You don't chip it somewhere. You actually produce directly where you're supposed to consume. So our idea is built actually of three parts. We call it a microfactory. It's a small plant that is actually doing the treatment from any kind of source water, whether it's seawater or brackish or borehole or industrial waste, gray water, any kind of water that flows. We treat it in different steps, and then we remineralize it so that it has the right table of content for taste preference, but also for nutrition. And then, so that's the first part in the microfactory. And then we are filling kegs for a micro distribution in a small circular area to avoid, let's say, distribution large scale. We do it small scale. And these vessels are made of food grade stainless steel instead of plastic. And they are all connected so we can see and improve the last mile delivery efficiently. And then the kegs, we call them kegs, they move into a dispensing point where we have developed a smart dispenser to make sure that we have a perfect integrity when we are at the consumption point. So there is a mechanical handshake, digital handshake. You know that it's safe. You consume locally, whether it's in a school, hospital, office space, household, event space, or whatever you consume it. The vessels then goes back to the microfactory, and we clean it inside the microfactory before filling without chemicals and with an ozone technology, which means that it's low power consumption, no chemicals, and it's a total circular system. So avoiding the major transport, avoiding the plastic, avoiding the chemicals, and producing it locally.
How can you ensure with that system that the bacteria and all the undesirable elements are gone from that water? Do you have multiple modules that actually operate this filtering, and you can entirely rely on this?
Yeah, I mean, the engineering team behind this is also have done this kind of water system for the last 20 years in the pharmaceutical industries. We're pretty on safe ground here. But obviously, we also have an IoT connected system, so we can constantly following the quality of the water. But the quality of the integrity is made by design. So that's something we have designed so that we know that it's not possible even to tamper with. There is no possibility to enter into the vessels by any kind of biological means.
And what about the minerals? So you mentioned that you inject some sort of minerals that are actually required in most parts of the world for drinking water. What type of minerals are we talking about? And side question, I have a Brita filter at home, and I've been told that it also filters out the good minerals. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if you have a good filter system like ours, you filter out basically everything. You're filtering out PFAS, microplastic, hormones, all dangerous chemicals that is actually not filtered out even in our beautiful tap system in the country where I live and probably where you are as well. So we are filtering out basically everything, and then you're filtering out the minerals as well. And if you have a water without minerals, and if you have a distilled water or super clean water, it's basically dangerous for the body. It's corrosive, and it will deplete you with the minerals you need for taking up the nutrients in your food. So we need to add the right mineral for getting a healthy water profile, but obviously also for taste preference. So we're adding the necessarily minerals in a table of content, and you would find magnesium, you would find all the necessary minerals there. And we can even tweak that in terms of local preference. Imagine you are in an area where you have a lack of calcium, or where you have a lack of magnesium or whatever. We can introduce that into our system and make sure that you get an improved health factor in that area as well.
I wanted to get that straight. So you're saying that even in parts of the West, we do not filter out hormones and some of the...
Yeah, I give you one horror story almost. Like, if you're writing a regulation on what to filter out in our country or globally in the world, you need to specify what chemicals to filter out to make it regulatory, let's say, safe. And imagine most of our regulations are from the 70s, or in the United States it's probably from the 70s. Here it's maybe 80s or 90s or whatever. And then you're making a list of the dangerous chemicals available out in the market, of what we find. Most of them are developed after the regulation has been made, which means that from a regulatory aspect, the water is clean because we filtered out the chemicals that we're supposed to filter out. But the new chemicals, the dangerous ones, and I can just mention one cluster of chemicals, the PFAS, the forever chemicals, they're not filtered out because there is no demand on that currently in the regulatory frameworks. And these are sometimes very difficult chemicals to filter out. So I've been moving around in the world and preaching that the Swedish tap water is so amazingly clean. And obviously it's cleaner than probably the plastic bottled water. But then I realized that my hometown, Uppsala, has a peak of PFA in the tap water. Oh. So I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't be preaching too much on on areas that I didn't know too much about. So you will find probably hormones or pharmaceutical residues, and I'm not sure to what extent, but it's getting problematic to keep up with the new chemicals out there.
Wow, so this is definitely good to know. I was gonna, transition to the perception safety of plastic bottles versus tap. But from what you're saying is it's just still undefined. But yet there's a host of microplastics in plastic bottles that makes it a killer in itself.
Yeah, I mean, some of the plastic bottled water companies obviously have a very clean water production facility, and they produce fantastic water. Then they are filling it into plastic and destroying it because all the plastic bottles are leaching microplastic. Obviously, there is a lot of research on that. And we were in Maldives some months ago, talking even to the government of supporting their ban on microplastic or single-use plastic bottles, which hopefully will come in the near future. But in this beautiful paradise island, they have some problems with mosquitoes. So there are a lot of mosquito researchers to try to avoid, let's say, get rid of the mosquitoes without spraying with chemicals, because they're also concerned about the environment. And we talked to some of the mosquito researchers, and they told us that they have found out that each time you get a mosquito bite, you get microplastic in your blood.
Wow. And in richer nations, so clean tap water is widely available, but on a global scale, the bottled water is just key, right, to safe drinking water. It's regarded as healthier, safer, as you mentioned, than tap water. But how can we win the psychological war of perception, so that eventually, even if you crack production of water locally, but it feels like it's coming from a tap or open environment, how can we win that war of perception?
Well, that's a difficult one. I think first of all, the problem of plastic is quite obvious from many perspectives. When we are traveling, we see big scrap yards of plastic. We get information every day about plastic patches in the oceans. We get this information, so people are getting aware that the plastic is probably not the best solution. But I think on the other hand, you need an alternative. And I think that on our end, we are at an early stage of showcasing that. But I think that you need some good examples and you need some inspiring stories. And obviously, we cannot change that system by putting more problems to the market space. So we need to find solutions that are obviously financially more interesting. So it has to be cheaper than the plastic bottled water. It has to be equally convenient, and it shouldn't be more problems. So one example is that there is a lot of under-counter filter system provided around the world. There's a lot of ideas of taking your municipal water and then you fine-tune it. There's a couple of problems with that one too, because if you're losing 50% of the water by the municipal system, because you're filtering out and you have losses in pipes and so forth, usually that's 50%. And then you have your under-counter system, you lose another 50. So basically you are losing 75% of the water resource if you have an under-counter system. And then at the second time, you're not really filtering out everything, because you need a very robust, efficient filter system. And then probably you have to make it larger to make the economics works in that one. And then thirdly, the most important thing here again, and that's how to change the behavior, is that it creates some problem. You have to be the maintenance guy. You have to have a facility at home, and you have to be the guy that you trust yourself to change the filter and stuff like that. So we need really good examples. We need scalable solutions with less problem and financially more interesting for the end consumer.
And I wanted to go back a little bit on the product, and then we can talk about the economics and how do we make this kind of system scale. So the product, just to visualize, you're literally pumping water from industrial wastewater, rivers, whatever the local source is. You're putting that into your closed system. It does all the filtering. It kills all the bacteria. It injects the right minerals. So you have pristine drinking water. And then the user experiences, they go to that container and then, with a bottle, or you offer glasses, and then they can just literally take it from the tap. Is that the experience that you envision in the world or in the future, or is the experience going to evolve over time?
Well, I think the experience looks like this currently. So we have currently these microfactory, we have the kegs and we have the dispenser. So our operator on the ground will obviously be the last mile delivery service. So you will have a tap at your home, given away by us or supported by us. Or if you are in a hotel, you will have our smart taps in every room. Or if you are in a hospital, you will have them. We or our partner will come with the kegs and will take the kegs away when they're empty. So that's how it's going to look like in the first phase of our deployment. So you will have everything that we consume from our system will be consumed from the tap into a glass or into a personal bottle locally at the tap station. not at the microfactory, but at the tap station. And you can envision that for every microfactory, we can supply water to 10,000 people. So you will have plenty of taps out and you will have plenty of kegs out. And it will be similar to the 5-gallon plastic water distribution schedule. But our water is cleaner and we don't have plastic and it's total circular. And then if we are putting ourselves in a little bit more visionary mode, obviously these, as everything in our system is digital, we have IoT connection to the microfactory so we can constantly improve and make it more efficient. We have connected vessels so we can improve the last mile delivery, make it most, let's say, environmental friendly or fastest or more most economically interesting. And then we have the consumption data on the dispenser itself so we can compare it with health data and so forth. But as we are digitally until the end of the consumption point, we can work with subscription models. So imagine now when we have a bottle that is connected as well, and we're considering our water more or less like roaming water. So which means that you buy a bottle and that bottle can contain 1,000 liters. You can subscribe it in your mobile. So we have all the apps for that already. But obviously the infrastructure is not there. And then you go to your local store, whether it's 7-Eleven or Starbucks or any kind of shop, and you go and refill your bottle instead of buying a plastic bottled water. And you do it on subscription. So, and then you have, and if you have this infrastructure then spread out, you can basically go anywhere to fill your bottle. This means that for the, let's say, on foot drinking of water, that would be the final solution. But we should also know that most of the water is actually consumed in the homes or in the office or in the hotel. So if we take our first solution, let's say just don't consider the bottle at all, we're probably gonna be able to phase out 75% of the plastic by just doing in introducing that. The last 25%, or if it's 20%, is different in different parts of the world, will be the on-foot drinking. That's kind of our future end game, but that's also very interesting for us because then we can really work with subscription model and really have this digital profile. And I think there is another interesting thought on the digitalization or the roaming of water. If you have a bottle that contains 1,000 liters, you will take care of that one, and you will obviously not toss it away, and you will not forget it or anything because it has a value. If you are given a stainless steel bottle today, well, I don't know. I have 10 of them at home because I've been given on different events or whatever. And they have basically only the value of the bottle itself. So it's quite easy that one becomes a single-use one too, or a multiple use, but not too many times. But if we can create some value in that bottle itself by adding plenty of liters into it in a subscription model, we can probably also minimize the waste of that type of stainless steel bottle as well.
Thanks for painting us that future. That makes sense, and digitization makes a whole lot of sense for economies of scale and optimizing the flow. One of the key questions is in poor nations, most of the inhabitants cannot afford a container-sized machine to produce their local water. So I'm thinking about villages, and so who can afford it? How will you gradually deploy your solutions? You mentioned maybe hotels, restaurants. So how can you paint us the flow of deployment?
Yeah, the deployment for us, or the idea for us, is to make this let's say future-proof drinking water, a future infrastructure. And we're not targeting specific group as an end game. We're targeting everyone, and we have something we sometimes refer to ethicality in our, let's say, profile of our system. So it's the same quality where you are in a refugee camp in Darfur or if you are in a luxury hotel in Dubai. But the way to reach that challenging areas with lower income is what, or let's say our strategy is to industrialize, is to make one size fits all and to industrialize and to bring down the cost. So that's one option. So we have to start somewhere where people can afford it and where our solution is well developed. And that is in office spaces or in the hospitality industry and basically in many parts of the world, but mainly in island nation or in insular situations where you basically maybe don't have an infrastructure or it doesn't work. It could be on the Maldives, like I said, one microfactory on each island. You solve the whole the nation's water supply. Or it could be in a smart city in Dubai, Expo City, because it's new infrastructure. So that's the starting point for us. Parallel to that, obviously, we are developing something that is more simple for areas that is more challenging. It could be let's say a settlement that might change over time, or it could be a refugee camp or something like that. Maybe we don't need this beautiful design dispenser, or maybe we don't need the connectivity in the same way, but the water quality will be the same. So we're making the whole system less costly from a capex point of view, and we are also industrializing. So we see that our solution will be less and less costly per liter for the end consumer over time, quite rapidly actually. And on the, let's say, and supporting that transition or roadmap would be the carbon credits. We have seen that most likely carbon credit will at an early stage enable us to drop the prices of the water by 30-40%. And the carbon credit most likely will increase in value, and we will make our system more efficient, so we will be able to get more carbon credits. There are talks about water credits as well, and I'm pretty sure that we will have some credit for cleaning up chemicals in the nature. Maybe that's in 5-year time or 10-year time, but we will have that. So our machine could really be a vacuum cleaner for this kind of support functions. And most likely, we will have a situation where we can basically, and this is maybe too visionary, but basically giving away the water for free because we are getting so much credit for what we are doing. And obviously we are on a commercial platform, and we believe that there's a need for, let's say, commercial sustainability. So that the price might not be zero, but it can be very, very low. So I'm pretty optimistic that in the near future we can reach out to basically anyone, anywhere, and having a competitive price against boiling of water, against carrying of water's kilometers, or against the plastic bottle itself.
Now, let's assume that you scale. Your methodology takes on and you start taking significant market share away from the big guys, the Coca-Cola, Nestle, Danone, PepsiCo. That they probably own most 75% of the market at this point. How will they respond? Can you even compete in terms of infrastructure, marketing, reducing water price, and really adjusting to the consumer spending power?
Yeah, I think we can. But I'm not sure that our end game is to have a conflict with these guys. We can offer them a solution. We can offer them a way out of the matrix they have created themselves. And our solution can obviously be used by Nestle or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Danone. And I would be happy to collaborate with all of them to get rid of the plastic, if that's the intention. So that's one answer. The other one is that we have, at an early stage, done everything we can to build up a very robust partnership around our solution. When it comes to production, we are partnering very, very deeply with Alfa Laval. When it comes to the IoT automations, the dashboards and platforms, we are collaborating with Siemens. So we're trying to find industrial leaders in each field that have the potential of supporting us going forward with infrastructure, power, production capabilities, capacities, and so forth. So I'm pretty sure that we are in a rather let's say, decent, good situation. But when it comes to the infrastructure or the pricing for the end consumer or the actually value offer for the final consumer, we are very convinced that we can do it far more cheaper, better, and more convenient for people than having the plastic bottled water and even setting up a let's say, plastic bottled water plant in every islands everywhere on planet Earth.
So that's interesting. What you're saying is you don't see a direct competition, or you're not disturbing them too much. They might get inspired by your model and adapt it eventually. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have the water treatment facilities, right? Those are sort of municipality, government, or regional projects. What is your long-term relationship, maybe between Wayout and those large-scale water treatment facilities? Are you looking to get closer to them?
Yeah, same there, I would say. I mean, we're in general, I think this is the water challenge is too large to try to solve yourself. It has to be through partnerships, and our concept is built on partnership. When it comes to the municipal water, is an interesting fact there as well, because in many parts of the world, the municipal system is perfect to make, let's say, semi-perfect water or almost drinkable water. Good for showers, good for using for other purposes in the household and other places. But in most part of the world, people don't drink it. So what we can do is we can become a very interesting partner for municipal, let's say, tail or end of their system to fine tune their water so we can use it for drinking water. We can even take a new smart city development like Expo City in Dubai. They are using their municipal water for shower. We can take their grey water, let's say, recirculate what they call a non-conventional water resource and bring that water back to clean drinking water, which will minimize the load on their municipal stations, which will increase their profit because they can have a higher profit at the drinking water supply at the end of this situation, and we can definitely minimize the pressure on the planet in terms of CO2, plastic waste, depleting water tables, and so forth. So it's a really win-win situation for all.
Right. And you mentioned Dubai a couple of times. And could you speak about the role of the Middle East in your development and why that region in particular? Why now? And do you think it's because they're supporting much more visionary projects and they have extra, surplus of capital to invest? Or is it because there's a real pressing need for them to tackle water scarcity?
I think you answered all of it yourself, but I think it's basically like this. That's a region where it's very, very obvious that water is a critical issue for the nations. So you have it in your backbone or almost in your DNA that you have to have a critical view on water supply and water source. So it's very easy to talk about water. On the other hand, there has been a lot of let's say, initiatives from the GCC area or Middle East area of bringing in the forefront of sustainable development. We had the World Expo there. All talks was about sustainability. You have the COP28 coming up in Dubai. So there's a lot of both need and visionary thoughts about being thought leaders and in the forefront of the sustainability development. And obviously, it's because they want to, but also because they can. So you are right. There is a lot of capital in the region, so they can do it, and also quite obvious. They have been supplying the world with cheap energy or energy over the last, I don't know what, from non-renewable resources, and they know that they have to change that from many perspectives. Soon the oil is gone and nobody wants it. So I think there is pressure and initiatives all over the place in that region.
Right, and to me, there's another holy grail solution to tackle the global water problem. About 71% of the Earth's surface is covered in water, and the oceans hold about 96% of all Earth's water. So why haven't we cracked desalination at scale? And isn't it the number one solution to fix the problem once and for all?
I think desalination plays a role. I think there's a lot of areas we need to address. First of all, I think it's the efficient use of water. We call it yield sometimes, we call it whatever. So we can't have a system that waste 75% of the water to get the drinking water. If you drink a plastic bottled water, it takes 3 liters to make 1 liter. That it's a bad solution. We need to have efficient system. That goes for energy, that goes for water, that goes for food, that goes for everything. Secondly, I'm pretty sure we need to turn to non-conventional water resources. We need to start figuring out the way to recycling the water, and we need to culturally accept it. And whether that's grey water, whether that's wastewater or industrial wastewater, and reuse it again. So that's basically one thing. And then the third thing is obviously we need to use the sea as a resource. And most important on island nations, because what's happening, take Zanzibar as an example that's been overexploited by the hospitality industry, digging their own wells. So the water table is basically gone, and it's flooding in salt water. So the water table is getting brackish, and that takes another 1,000 years to get sweet again. Meaning that if you have an agriculture area and you want to do irrigation, you can't do it. So we're basically killing our islands for another 1,000 years. So we need to figure out a way to, if we have this the pressure from the hospitality industry in certain areas, and even by growth of their own population, we need to use non-conventional water resources, and we need to address the desal possibilities, I would say. Our solution, the desal, is already built in. It's one of the functions we have, whether we take it from the sea or brackish or whatever. So we're already prepared for that.
Now, looking a bit into the future, under what conditions could Wayout Solutions address the water access to the low-income households? We understand you're starting with the hospitality in the nations that can afford it, and you will be able to deploy your units, provide access to a couple, dozen, thousands of people, and then spread over time. But what about the bottom of the pyramid, the low-income households? Is there a future where they will be gaining some of the benefits of your product?
Absolutely, it has to be like that, because we can't stop at one point and say that the rest of the people cannot have our water. I think there are a couple of ways to that. I think our first priority is to industrialize and to make it cheaper. Obviously, the first of its kind, when you make something, is more expensive, and if you make the same thousands of times, it's getting less expensive. And there is also new technology that can increase our capacity, that can improve quality and so forth, so that we can improve over time. And I think that's one of the key factors for us. That's in our hand. And I think that the other way is also to build other financial systems. And obviously one of them is through financial engineering, you can make longer depreciation times. You can, considering it as an infrastructure that lasts for 20 years, you will definitely decrease price level. You can have one unit that is actually supporting the other unit. You can have one unit in a rich area where part of, let's say, the revenue goes to an area where you basically cannot afford it. As we are digital, we can have totally seamless streams of revenues around in our own system. And finally, I think we will probably, in the foreseeable future, need to support the most vulnerable areas anyway, which means that that's through CSR activities, that's through government support. And if we get, let's say we get government support for half of our capex, we can reduce the price with 50%. So we are on our way of getting into a level of, I mean, if we are at the price level today of 5 cents a liter, with the carbon credit, we may be at 3 or even 2.5. And if we can have a longer depreciation time, And if we can get financial support, we can be down at maybe 1 or less. And that's when we are in an area where we can basically give away the water for free. Whether I don't really like that way of, because it's not really sustainable, but in some areas it's necessary. So I think that we have, with our technology and with some financial engineering and some other financial support, we can probably address the water. We can supply water to anyone.
It seems like, or rather, it's a question: is this something that you've baked into the culture of your company to look at the problem in two ways? There's a lucrative avenue that can be very lucrative. I don't know how much of the economics of a each unit you could share, but it could go ballistic very quickly if you scale and create word of mouth, and then just a acquisition channel just to goes on in the hospitality industry alone. And then, but you're also looking at the bottom side, the sort of subsidized avenue. And is this a lesson for other organizations in the climate tech space to look at it from the cash cow, subsidize the rest of the avenue that can impact the millions of people?
I think it has to go hand in hand. I'm pretty sure that we need to start. I mean, we're a commercial company. We need to have good profit, good sustainable profitability. That's key for what we're doing. But on the other hand, we want to address the whole, let's say, water challenge. So we need to find ways of doing that. So that's built into our ambition, and the. Let's say that the economics or the reason for profit is more a hygiene factor. We are here to change the way of producing and distributing and dispensing water, and we want to do that for everyone. And obviously, we need to do that through a sustainable financial project or company. And I think that it just goes hand in hand. It's probably inside our DNA and reason for being.
Well, here, we're running out of time, Ulf. I'm sure we could uncover so many topics. Maybe we do a rain shake for another time to see in a couple of years how your business has evolved and whether this vision has materialized. It's a fascinating journey. So thanks so much for this great conversation.
Thank you so much. And come to Dubai and see our unit. Water is on us.
Thanks so much. And to all of you guys, thanks for listening. Again, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at climateinsiders.co to stay updated on future episodes. Take care.